2019, which is only 5 years ago, the total public market cap of venture-funded startups that had gone public in India was less than $10 billion. Today, the public market cap of venture-funded companies that are public is over $100 billion. So clearly, everything has changed. And what we're going to try to do in the next 22 minutes is get our panelists here, who I'll introduce in a minute, to share their perspectives on what they're seeing today, but more importantly, what's going to happen over the next 5, 10, 15 years. Kunal, we're going to start with you. Kunal is, as all of you know, the founder and CEO of Cred. Kunal, you sold your last company, FreeCharge, 2017. It's been, what, 3 + 4, 7 years. What's changed in the last 7 years? I gave some sense of what's changed in the last 20 years, but what's changed in the last 7 years? And also maybe in the course of that, just talk a little bit about what exactly is Cred? What do you guys do?
Actually, I'm curious, how many of you use Cred over here? Okay, not so bad. Decent market share. First of all, Rajan, I've been a veteran. I realized that some of the youngest founders who are in the ecosystem, I'm reaching their parents' age now. So it's quite scary like how the ecosystem is evolving. I exited the company actually in 2015 and not 2017, but and it's almost like 10 years since that. I have been lucky to invest in many, many companies. I have also seen the transformation of the same internet ecosystem and how consumption is completely changing. But I think the biggest change is the confidence that investors, entrepreneurs, and the next set of entrepreneurs are having on the ecosystem. Earlier, it was easy to assume that these guys are going to amount to nothing. And it was almost a topic of ridicule. It's still being ridiculed, as you notice. But the point is that these things are just changing so quickly. And we should all understand one thing, that no matter who we are, we always assume the next generation is absolutely messed up. And thankfully, they turn out to be much more efficient, much more smarter, and go on to do great things. So it's just a matter of time that we are going through this evolution. Coming to Cred, we were fortunate to build FreeCharge before, understand how the ecosystem works. The biggest realization I had was that India's consumption is still very concentrated. When you talk about the $2,000 or $2,500 per capita income, if you take the top 25 million families and take them out, the per capita income drops quite dramatically. So when it comes to internet businesses, I would say 80–85% of all internet businesses kind of rely on these 20 million customers in some ways. And we just focus on these customers, and we found that if you can serve them with a very distinct focus, it's not like in the internet companies that you're focused only on 25–30 million customers. Internet's supposed to be this hundreds of millions of customers that you're supposed to be focusing on. We focus on these customer base. We make it easy for them to have good financial behavior. And because we attract a certain quality of customers, we makes it easy for banks, brands, merchants to come and cross-sell things on our platform. It's a simple business model for those who use it, and those who are not using it yet, this is a good time to download the app.
All right, great. Thank you, Kunal. Amrit is the co-founder and CEO of Zetwork. Amrit, you should talk a little bit about what Zetwork does. But in a country until very recently where manufacturing just wasn't a thing, right? Like if you go back 5 years, although we had Make in India, manufacturing really wasn't a thing. I think it's great to see India now having some very, very interesting, rapidly scaling manufacturing startups. So Amrit, tell the audience what Zetwork is, but then also talk a little bit about, how come we're seeing manufacturing startups today? What's happening in India today that's leading to sort of companies like yours emerging?
Yeah, so we started in 2018. We are essentially a platform business. We connect small factories with large industrial demand. Our customers essentially want to bring new products to market. Typically, the way they would do it is they would give the order to a large factory, and then those large factories would produce those goods. We created a new model where we partner with lots of small factories to give a similar output in terms of on-time deliveries, quality, etc. But by bringing a lot of new capacity online and introducing it to the marketplace, we are able to offer more choice to our customers and lead to better outcomes. And these are largely for industrial goods and consumer products. Going back to your question, I think, yeah, it's an interesting time to be a manufacturing-focused business. Like when we started 6 years back, I think Kunal mentioned this concept of ridicule. We were very ridiculed. Like, you guys look smart. Why are you spending your time on something so unsexy? I think what has fundamentally changed is, I think the public markets have paved the way in some shape or form. There is a lot of appreciation of new stories which are solving not just a make in India problem, but really showcasing our abilities in the global markets. We have definitely seen evidence of that within our company as well. Like a third of our revenue comes from the US. These are companies which used to buy from China before and are now buying product in India. So getting that flywheel, starting with the public markets, seeing maybe some examples in the private markets with us, probably is inspiring a new generation of entrepreneurs to tackle problems which traditionally seemed very hard. I think the VC axiom has always been that hardware is hard. Maybe you have more to say about that, but I think there's more examples today that yes, it is hard, but solvable.
Great, thank you, Amrit. Kapil, let's move to you. You know, the first SaaS, which is software as a service unicorn in India, was Freshworks, 2018. Today we have close to 30 unicorns that are SaaS unicorns, right, building software from India for the world. But until Unicommerce went public, I think this idea that you can build software products, sell it to Indian customers, and build a large company was not a thing. It's sort of like manufacturing wasn't a thing, it wasn't a thing. So Kapil, I think you and your team, huge kudos to you guys. You built Unicommerce, you took it public. So maybe for the group, just tell them a little bit about what does Unicommerce do, but then more importantly, what's happening with Indian enterprises? In fact, last night, I was with an e-commerce company that I told them that I'm on this panel, I'm going to have you on it. They were quite excited. We were like, hey, we use Unicommerce. So talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Thanks, Rajan. It's a pleasure to be here. And I think, I hope each one of you here shops online, and when you're shopping online, the backend of that is powered by Unicommerce. So Unicommerce is India's largest e-commerce post-purchase enablement SaaS platform. We are processing nearly 25% of India's e-commerce volumes. So nearly 1 billion transactions get processed annually through our platform. When you're ordering online, you see the website.
1 billion transactions.
So when you're ordering online, you see the website on which you're placing your order, and you see the delivery boy that's coming to your doorstep. Whatever happens in between is getting powered through the software that we provide, which caters to various capabilities like order management, inventory management, warehouse management, all non-sexy things, but that's what is the backbone of whatever the smooth experience that you see while you're shopping online on Flipkart, Amazon, any brand website or quick commerce. The backend of that from the brand side is getting powered on Unicommerce. We work with 3,600 plus brands and sellers across many categories: fashion, footwear, FMCG, pharma. Some of the notable names include Le Mama, the example that you took, Boat, Lenskart, many traditional brands like Imami, GNC, Fab India, etc. And we are able to work across sectors and scale. We took the company public, as Rajan mentioned, early this year, and we were the second most subscribed IPOs of 2024. But it was a great validation that you can build a SaaS company in India for Indian ecosystem and actually grow this to a large scale. In fact, our vision is to become a one-stop shop for e-commerce enablement. And in line with that, we've also recently acquired just this week a company called Shipway, which also gives us capabilities across the entire e-commerce value chain. So beyond just order, inventory management, warehouse management, we can now do courier aggregation, marketing automation. So it becomes a one-stop shop solution for all e-commerce brands and sellers.
Great, thank you, Kapil. And just so those of you that don't follow e-commerce, India's e-commerce GMV, gross merchandise value, is about $70 billion. Over the next 20 years, we should get to about 2 trillion, right? Because China's e-commerce market is around a little over 2 trillion. So, you know, I think a lot of folks wonder why is it that Unicommerce trades at the multiples that you do, which is basically, you know, you power pretty much every single e-commerce company in India. E-commerce goes from 70 billion to, you know, call it 2 trillion, and there you go, right? That's sort of what you get. All right, let's now move to sort of scale of each of your companies, because I think a lot of folks, as Kunal said, you know, used to ridicule startups. I think now it's kind of hard when you have a company like Zomato that trades at 27 billion a market cap. You know, I want to talk a little bit about scale and how quickly companies are scaling. And Amrit, I'll start with you. Maybe to the extent you can, talk a little bit about the scale of Zetwork. And when was Zetwork founded?
2018, yeah.
2018. So Zetwork is basically 6 years into this company's journey. Talk a little bit about the scale that you're at and also what you're seeing, not just in India, but globally, on global appetite for Indian manufacturing.
Yeah, so I mean, last year we did close to 11,000 crores of revenue, of which 3,000 crores was exports. So we made in India and we exported. And yeah, those are numbers which we feel proud of. And I think the more interesting thing is we don't have a global comparable. So when this is something we learned from investors is, hey, are you the Uber of India? Are you the Zomato of India? And we often didn't have good answers to those. And the reason we didn't have answers to those is this is a very unique problem to India that we are solving. And when we started the business 6 years back, that was not very well understood by capital markets. I think somewhere along with our journey and few other companies, that is a big change we are seeing today. We are seeing, Zetoc of X or some variants of that. And the key message here is, I think, solving a unique problem which is unique to you is more important than solving, a similar problem which has been done in a different market. And that is where true value can sometimes come in a short span of time.
Got it. And thank you, Amrit. So I want all of you to notice this, right? Like, company was launched 6 years ago. It's got 11,000 crores of revenue, 3,000 crores of exports. And it's an N01 company. What we mean by that is it's unique when it started, right? Now there are other companies that are trying to replicate it. In fact, I was at Google for 8 years, and every single day somebody would ask me, what's the Google of India? Well, the Google of India is Google, but the cred of India is cred, and the cred of the world is cred. And so is Zetwork. And I think that's what you're seeing in the Indian ecosystem today, right? Kunal, let's go to you next. To the extent you can, share the scale, not just in terms of users, but any other financial metrics that you can. As well as I want you to share one insight about the Indian consumer, because you have an insight a day, Kunal, on what's happening with the Indian consumer.
So Cred, just like Zetwork, we will complete 6 years in 2 weeks from now. And it feels like forever because most of our building was during the COVID time. We currently command a large market share of, let's say, the affluent customers of India and kind of credit-worthy customers of India. In terms of scale today, nearly 35 to 40% of all credit cards in India are managed on the platform. And what we do on top of that, we cross-sell a bunch of things. We are north of $300 million of revenue. A lot of the stuff is public and growing quite rapidly. But the more interesting thing, Rajan, you'll remember, we had no monetization 2.5 years ago. So all the monetization happened in the last 2.5 years. We were building the platform and distribution before. So, and thankfully, we are operating in a category where the gross margins are quite high. We kind of focus on the business and operate as a pure internet business. On Insight, Indian consumers are unique, but I'll talk about something different than Indian consumers. While we see all these startups listing, the one unique thing that is different than what it was before, for the first time, we see wealth sharing happening at the scale that last time we saw this was Infosys, where employees made a lot of money, but now we are entering a time where a large percentage of employees of these companies that are getting listed are getting wealthy. And for the first time, we are moving away from just pay me salary and be happy, and to moving into the stock. And that's going to create a new wave, in my view, because I've never seen a lot of people from startup joining these big companies, but I'm seeing a wave of all the execs now moving to this side because now everybody has tasted the blood of stocks.
Absolutely. And thank you, Kunal, for sharing that. So I want you all to keep in mind, Cred was started 6 years ago. 2.5 years ago, Cred had zero revenue. And today it's over 2,400 crores, which is the last published number. I know it's much higher than that. Much higher than that today, right? So the pace at which Indian companies are generating real revenue is quite incredible, by the way. And you'd be surprised how profitable both these companies will be very soon. All right, let's move to Unicommerce, Kapil. Talk a little bit about, it used to be that Indian enterprises, with the exception of maybe even the top 100 large companies in India, right, really didn't want to pay a lot for software. But that is changing. But tell us a little bit about what's changing enterprise behavior, buying behavior.
I think few things that are changing. One, we are seeing this shift from on-prem to SaaS because the use cases are becoming very complex now and they're fast evolving. Like we are operating in an industry like e-commerce where things are changing very fast. Like direct-to-customer, omni-channel were fringe use cases pre-pandemic, but now they are becoming mainstream. Every brand wants to have a D2C web front. quick commerce until last year, everybody was questioning whether it will survive or not. And today it is a salient contributor to many of the categories. It's changing every quarter, every 2 quarters. And that's why we are seeing enterprises shifting their tech spends to SaaS solutions, because they can keep up with this changing landscape, because it's fast evolving. And more importantly, now it requires a strong interplay of different systems talking to each other, which can only be achieved through SaaS. The other thing, the other notion, other myth about Indian enterprises is that they will make you build a moon but pay pennies for it. That's changing. I think Indian enterprises are seeing value of a credible SaaS solution and are ready to pay for it, because they are able to take away this big complexity out of their head so that the businesses can focus on their core. A lot of e-commerce businesses realize that they have to deal with a lot of complexity on the user side, so they can give it to Unicommerce to manage the entire supply chain, and then they can focus on their core completely. And we are increasingly seeing even mid-sized enterprises ready to shell out money, give reasonable pricing to be able to scale the enterprise size. And that's why now with Unicommerce, there is an example that you can actually build a large business, profitable business, selling to Indian enterprises and make money out of that.
Got it. Okay, great. I'm going to now go to fundraising, both in the private markets and the public markets. I'm going to start with you, Kapil. As I said, 2019, which is 5 years ago, the market cap, combined market cap of all venture-funded startups in India that had gone public was less than 10 billion. 5 years later, that number is over 100 billion, right? And if you go back to 2019, there were less than 5 venture-funded startups that had gone public, both India as well as anywhere in the world. That number today, if you look at venture-funded startups that have gone public, that number is over 30. And every year we expect that number to double, okay, every year. 30 will double every year. So I want to obviously start with you, because the biggest thing that's happened to Indian startups is IPOs. Every startup wants to get profitable, go public. One big lesson you've learned taking Unicommerce public, and this is actually both for the startup entrepreneurs in the room as well as watching.
I think it is now very heartening to see this trend of this growth at all costs getting debunked. I think it is an era of sustainable growth where I see even young founders being very, very conscious about building unit economics. Sure, you can invest for growth in the beginning, but there is a path that right from the beginning, founders are keeping that in mind. I think one of the things that was really liked in our story was that we were growing consistently, and we had very stable financials. We were profitable for many years, and that is one thing that was really appreciated. And obviously, e-commerce, we've just scratched the surface. Like in India last year, about 4.5 billion shipments were processed. If you compare that with China, 130 billion plus shipments were processed. So there is a huge opportunity as far as e-commerce is concerned. And I think if whoever comes to me for advice for taking company public, and I think the biggest advice is that you have to first demonstrate consistent financials, profitability for a sustained period of time. Many founders are thinking that we do it for 1 or 2 quarters and then take the company public. I think what the public market is looking for is sustained financial growth and sustained revenue growth. You cannot have these troughs and crests of growth. Sustained and consistent performance. I'm a big believer of compounding, and that can only come through sustained growth in revenues and profits.
Terrific. So I'm going to ask both of you a question. You can decide not to answer it if you'd like. This wasn't in the prep questions I sent you guys. So India today has Zomato's 27 billion market cap. InfoEdge and MakeMyTrip are both north of 10 billion market cap. Swiggy went public yesterday, 10, 12, 11, 12 billion market cap. So we have 4 companies, venture-funded companies that have gone public that are over 10 billion market cap. Every year, our projection is every year India will have 5 companies going forward from 2025, 4 to 5 companies that will go public with north of 10 billion market cap. Okay, we are beyond the sort of 500 billion to a billion market cap. I'm not saying what your market cap is going to be because nobody knows. But when are you guys going to go public? And you don't have to give an exact date, time, month, etc. But like rough sense of Amrit, like when do you think?
I read an article yesterday that we're going public. So
what did the article say? I didn't read the article. So what did the article say?
No, I think we're thinking about it. Probably, I think, great examples here. And there's a lot of people have paved the path. So we're thinking about maybe next year or the year after. Yeah.
All right, 25 or 26, Kunal?
I don't know the answer, but I think the best question to ask any startup is, when are you going to make a lot of profit? Because if you do that, you can decide to go IPO.
Okay. Let's build on this. When is Cred going to make $1 billion of FCF, free cash flow, a year?
That's a great question. If we operate in environments where a lot of businesses that we do are controlled through regulatory environments, and a lot of the times we have to choose business models and choices as the regulatory landscape evolves. We operate in a market where India's 50% of PAT and 50% of market cap are in financial services. And all fintechs put together today do not earn more than 0.2% of that profit or revenue right now. So the answer to that is that we're operating in the largest category that exists. It's a matter of time.
Yeah, and also, just to build on that, like Zerodha, which is bootstrapped, has $1 billion of revenue and 500 million of free cash flow already, and the company's never raised a paisa. Okay, we got we are a little over 2 minutes left. So last question, I'd like each of you to talk a little bit about 10 years from now, right? A decade from now. How big can each of your companies get? And it can be revenue, it could be users, it could be whatever metric you'd like. And then that's question one. Second question is, what do you think will happen to our startup ecosystem 10 or 15 years from now? Some characteristics in whatever dimension you'd like. So I'm going to start with you, Kapil.
I cannot comment on the revenues, but our revenues are linked to the number of transactions. As I mentioned, there is a significant headroom of growth for the transactions. Just looking at China's example, China is already 30 times that of India's transactions. And the good part is we are in an industry like e-commerce where things are changing every quarter. So we are seeing this innovation happening every quarter. So I think we are interestingly at a cusp of 3 trends, which is e-commerce, supply chain, and technology. There are interesting things happening on each front. AI is like an overabused word now, but we are, although it's not come into the supply chain space as much as it has probably done in marketing and support yet, but we are seeing very interesting developments happening in the e-commerce technology space, which is to do with omni-channel retail technology. Similarly, on supply chain, we are seeing a lot of innovations on automation, robotics, etc. coming in. So I think 10 years, it's hard to predict. Like 2 years ago, who would have thought that D2C omnichannel will become mainstream or quick commerce will become mainstream? So 10 years is a very long time frame, but a lot of exciting stuff is going to happen in e-commerce, in supply chain, and broader technology sector.
Got it. So like 10, 20, 30, 40 times bigger. Got it. Kunal, we'll go to you next. 10 years from now, how big is Cred?
27 to 30% of US market cap is tech companies. India's market cap on tech companies is probably less than 2%, 5%, whatever you want to put it at.
It's about 100 billion on call it 5 trillion, 2%.
Yeah, 2%. And I told you 2 metrics. One is that tech will become highest part of market share. Financial services will remain 50% till we become developed nation. So let's call it till Viksit, we're going to be largely financial services on market cap and something. When you combine both of these Venn diagrams, you can easily imagine a few $100 billion companies. We wish we are one of them.
There we go, 100 billion market cap next 10, 15 years. By the way, we do think that India will have its first $100 billion market cap venture-funded company before the end of this decade. Maybe it'll be great, but but there's a few others that are in the running. Amrit, Zetwork, let's wrap with you. How big can Zetwork get?
I mean, again, I'll just answer it thematically. Like, we sit on 3 very important themes. We are a very big part of helping the Indian economy grow with making manufacturing more efficient. We're helping India replace dependency on China, and we're also helping the world reduce dependency on China. I think in 10 years, it is easier to predict what will not change. Our customers will want goods cheaper, faster, and better. And hopefully, we are the partner of choice for the world's leading brands to participate in that journey with them.
There we go. All right, with that, we're going to wrap up. Let's give a big round of applause to our 3 founders. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajiv Anandan, for taking us through the expert panel with startups, not upstarts. Thank you very much for that conversation. Now, as we look at 2 key drivers...